Good evening and welcome to the May 7th, 2013 meeting of the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen and Sewer Commissioners. May we have the roll call, please?
Selectman Whiteside, Selectman Tropiano, Selectman Teitelbaum, Selectman Slavin are present. Selectman Holmes is not present tonight. Town Administrator Derek Sullivan and Town Council Rich Bowen.
Just as an addendum to that, I did speak with Selectman Holmes at 6:30. There's nothing dramatically wrong with him. He just has a bug. I didn't want to get anybody too concerned. Next, please.
Announcements. Judy?
Yes, I have a couple. Thank you. First of all, there is a private citizens group. We'll call us the Trash Flash for nothing better. And this year, it will be the third year that this group puts together a Clean-up Wareham Day. It's actually going to be 3 days, June 6th, 7th, and 8th. And the time frame probably is 9 to 4. We haven't worked out all of the details. We are going to be picking up the streets that are the most visible and also the ones that will be used for the triathlon that weekend. And so we hope that we will be getting a lot of press. We also hope that we will have youth groups, older people groups like me, and we are taking donations of rubber gloves, that kind of thing. Sandy Slavin is in charge of it along with Mary Bruce. And if you go on the town website and email me on the town website, I can forward your information to them. We will have signs both in the front of the group of people and at the end of the group of people picking up trash. We already have some donations from ABC Disposal, and other people. We are targeting Indian Neck, Great Neck, Merchants Way, Stillman, Minot, the Narrows, Toby Road, Main Street from Hathaway to the Train Bridge, Charlotte Furnace, Glen Charlie, Charge Pond, Elm Street, Red Brook, Crooked River, Onset Avenue, Route 6 between Depot and Tyler, and I'm sure there are many others. So this has not got anything to do with the town trash committee or whatever it's called. This is a group of citizens that this is their third year doing it. So if you have an interest in joining us on that day, you will be seeing information in the newspapers. The second thing is that I sit as a treasurer for the Wareham Gatemen. We had a coach, Joe Walsh, who coached with us for many, many years. And then when he left us, he went and was the head baseball coach at Harvard University. Unfortunately, he died suddenly and left his wife and 3 daughters. On the opening day of our season, the Gateman season, on June 9th, we will be playing the Newport Gulls at Spillane Field. It's kind of a neat game because the Wareham won the Cape League championship and the Newport Gulls won their championship, whatever their league is. We are raffling tickets for a 3 seats on a Cherokee 6 airplane, a 2-hour flyover of Cape Cod, and then flying over the field as the first pitch is thrown. You will also get the opportunity to throw the first pitch at some later time. If you don't like flying, buy the ticket and give it to somebody else. So I have them available. I'm not sure how else. I know other people who are involved with the Gatemen are selling them. But we will be pulling the raffle tickets, obviously, I'm guessing maybe the weekend of the 30th of June. So if you're interested in those tickets, I'd be happy to sell you one. Thank you.
Mr. Tropiano?
I just have one. The Wareham Little League has its annual Coaches Dance this weekend. It's Saturday night from 6 to 12 at the Redmond Hall. There's a baked stuffed chicken dinner. And let's see, there's a DJ. It's kind of a lot of fun. Everybody kind of meets the coaches and has a good time. So bring your dancing shoes. $20 gets you in, pays for the meal and the whole thing. And it all goes to a good cause. So let's see if we can get a lot of people there. Thanks.
Selectman Teitelbaum?
I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Just a reminder, we have the WCTV has their auction, which is, I think, Friday is the last day we're to bring any items over to be auctioned. One of the benefits is the Sandy Relief Fund. We have a Wareham coffee hour from Mr. White, Mrs. Donna Bronk, chairwoman of the Wareham Finance Committee, will be there, and that will be on Thursday, May 9th at 9 a.m. Buzzards Bay Productions, 3065 Lye, has an open mic night Thursday, May 23rd from 7 to 10 p.m., 3065 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham. It's, I think, if I remember right, it's in the middle of the old Ocean Spray Complex on Cranberry Highway. It basically says if you're a musician, singer, warm up your fingers, lubricate your vocal cords, or just come to be entertained. The Wareham Summer Celebration 2014 Committee, I'll repeat again, is looking for interested citizens to become part of their efforts. They'll be celebrating the 200th anniversary of the attack of the Nimrod, the 275th anniversary of the incorporation of Wareham. There'll be a muster. McPhinney, who is going to be doing the muster, is trying to basically reestablish the militia for Wareham. It's actually never been dissolved. I believe there's 6 people that have signed up so far. They'd like to have 12, probably 15 would be ideal in case anybody gets sick. You can get a hold of Claire Smith. They meet usually, I think they meet 2 weeks from yesterday, room 225, if you want to come in and observe one of their meetings. Notice on Bill Minor, who passed away just recently. His service is scheduled for Saturday, May 18th at the Emmanuel Church, 15 Newbury Street, Boston. It says, please come a little early as the service will begin promptly at 3:30. Cocktails and observes. Reception will follow at the Tennis and Racket Club at 939 Boylston Street, Boston. From our Harbor Master. The Wareham Harbor Master Department, in partnership with the Mass Environmental Police, will be hosting a boat safety course on June 1st and 2nd at the Multi-Service Building, 48 Marion Road. The course is free to all, but space is limited and fills up fast. Last piece I'd like to make note, it's really not an announcement per se, but we had an issue where there was a family living on 47 Hathaway Road in which there was basically the TV program, Extreme Makeover. There was a young man there who had, serious medical issue, had to have his care and stuff was very difficult for his grandmother. His neighbors next door, which were the Barrows, used to do a lot of help and stuff, and different Barrows. You just put up with me for a minute here. And it's Paula and Charlie Barrows. The young man was Jeremiah, and it was kind of an interesting event in that another couple had a son which had just died just a few weeks before this issue came up. There was an article in the Standard Times, and the family from the son that had passed away actually went ahead and were going to donate a washer and dryer because it was an issue for these people. What ended up happening is that several other people got together in these different foundations, and the foundations are Team Noah, the ALVES Foundation, ALVES, and the Jeremiah Project, and I think Fernandez Masonry. They all got together, and they ended up basically taking the whole house apart, adding a major piece to the building itself, redoing inside, outside. If I remember right, I think it was Cardi's Furniture, refurnished the whole house. But what I'm bringing up is it's something that we do for our neighbors, and we help out quite a bit. There was no politics involved. There was no anything else. It was just something that everybody did, and they just gave their time. And I think it's something that should be appreciated by everybody, that we can help each other out. What was really interesting is when I was there on Saturday, I had a city councilor from New Bedford come up and shake my hand. Kind of scared me because I figured I must have done something wrong. Usually we only get complaints and never hear good things. He just wanted to let me know that he just didn't know how to thank the town employees of Wareham for how much they went out of their way to make this all happen and to get all the inspections done and everything else so this could be done in 1 week's time and have the unveiling on Saturday when the people came in. So I'd just like to put out a very thank you to all our town employees for what they've done, also including the Wareham Fire and Water District, which obviously helped as well. That's it.
Okay, next item, please. See if you remember it this week.
No, I was going to have Jerry just remind me again. Citizen participation.
Would anyone like to come forward and address the board on any subject? Apparently not.
Okay. We have no bills, no documents.
Do the minutes.
And we'll start the minutes. We have a hearing at 7:15. I'll take a motion for the minutes of 4/22/13.
Okay, Mrs.
I'll
Whiteside.
make a
if you-
motion to accept them as presented.
I'll second out of necessity. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 301.
Minutes of April 23rd. Motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve as presented.
Second out of necessity. Anything on the question? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? 301 again.
Executive session of September 13th, 2012. I'll have a motion to approve and hold. By
I'll
necessity, I'll make the motion.
second out of necessity. Anything on the question? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 202.
Executive session, October 2nd, 2012. On necessity, I'll make the motion to accept the minutes.
And hold.
I don't think we have to hold, there's nothing here. Look and see. I don't think there's anything that's- Can't hold if we want.
No, I don't see anything. I'll second out of necessity. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Yes.
202. Minutes will be released.
Next thing we have is,
You're 7:15.
7:15, we got a minute to go. We can't do the ZBA appointment at all either.
When we jump to number 7 on the agenda, I can dispense with this.
Okay, good. Funding source for contract 2.
I don't think we have anything for that. I spoke with Mr. Campina earlier tonight. He was equally confused as I was on the update on the solar RFQ capital committee because we had pretty much just formed that committee last week, so it seemed a little early for any reports to be coming in. So that's an item that he didn't need to be around to discuss, and he didn't have any other sewer business, so I suggested that he didn't need to be here tonight. So we can cross that off our list.
On sewer business, item A, since town council is here, this is an issue where we had some questions about retained earnings for town council and also the town administrator, because we have questions of what makes up the retained earnings account. And before we go ahead and look at that, we need to have some legal opinion and also some breakout of the dollar amounts. I think we mentioned it last week kind of, but I'd like to make it more formal so we can start to go ahead and look at this.
Was that a motion?
Well, I think more of a consensus. We don't have anything
Yeah.
on here for a vote, so. Any thoughts on that?
We're definitely going to have to, if we're going to transition this over to a board of sewer commissioners, we're going to definitely have to do something before we get to that point, because there are other issues in that financial picture that need to be addressed and corrected.
Yep.
And the sooner we get something on that and get somebody on it, the better off we'll be, I think.
Yeah, I think we need to develop, hopefully, a minimum number of policies on how we deal with retained earnings and how money is used. Because right now, there's really no guidelines, there is no roadmap.
But I think you also need an audit before we are no longer the
Yeah, I think the town administrator could probably request that of all the Board of Selectmen down the line. Before the changeover, I'd say 6 months before, we probably should request a DOR audit.
Right.
That was actually a recent, it's funny you say that, that was a recent brainchild of the town moderator as well. She thought about that as an opportunity, frankly, to not only figure out the status of the books, but also to get them ready in a clean condition for the handoff of power, so.
It's going to be difficult to deal with the retained earnings until we get the depreciation off of there. So, and that has to happen. And you can't have depreciation. It's not allowed. And we need to get that corrected so that we can deal with what will be the retained earnings.
I think that's one of the questions. We'll get to the hearing right now, but in the breakout of the retained earnings and stuff, if you look at Powers and Sullivan's report and information that shows retained earnings, Mr. Sullivan can explain these, but actually the way it was presented, it is allowed, so we'll get to that.
Want to start the hearing?
Start the hearing. We have a hearing tonight for common vic all alcoholic beverage license from Barnacle Bills, LLC, Andrew Meadows, manager, 3126 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham.
Is there anybody here from Barnacle Bills? Come up, please, to the table. You have to speak directly into the microphone and keep it about 6 inches or closer to your mouth, otherwise it won't pick it up. They're very...
Right.
I'll miss it anyways.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, I've gone through all the paperwork. They have a serve safe. I didn't miss it this time. And we have basically from all the different departments of the town have all signed off, and all the paperwork is in order.
Why don't you tell us about your business and what you hope to achieve with a new license here?
Well, this is on right now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We changed it to a more full-service dining instead of the old takeout type situation where they had just the beer and wine. So we like to accompany with the full liquor to offer a glass of wine or a mixed drink with a full service. So that's why we're applying for the alcoholic.
Okay. And just for the record, could you tell us what hours you're looking to be serving?
Approximately probably in the summer hours, 11 to maybe 11 at night, the latest.
Let's see what we've got on the blank here.
What we have on the application is on Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., Sunday, 10 p.m. to 9
Yep.
p.m.
Okay.
Point for him, if I can. Those hours are specific. You
All right.
can't. You're not supposed to close before those hours. You
Right.
can. If you do, you have to call the police station and tell them you're closing.
Right.
It's just part of the process. So if you think you want to change your hours, you have to come back and have them changed, okay?
All right. Exactly.
And just further in that regard, we did change the town liquor policies back in February, I believe it was, so that establishments could close early, but you still need to call the police, just to let them know it's a good idea if they know when the lights are on, if anybody's in there, supposed to be in there or not.
Right. Exactly.
So it's a security benefit for you to let the police know what's going on. So.
All right. Exactly.
What I would suggest also is when this all gets done, that you pick up a copy of the policies so
Yep.
you understand all the different rules and regulations. It sounds simple, but there's
Right.
certain intricacies that's
Even with
easy
like
to follow.
yep. Even with a full year, all alcohol, like we can't close at any period of time. We have to notify like the town of Wareham.
Yes.
Yeah, if it's dead on a Tuesday night in February, nobody's necessarily going to hold you to staying open till 10 o'clock. If you want to close at 8, if it's dead out there,
Right.
just when
Just
you
notify
just
the
call
police.
notify the police.
Right.
That's all.
All right.
And if there's any, if you're looking, because it's a full liquor license, so this wouldn't really apply to you. But typically, if somebody's looking to be open on a day when they normally aren't, they've got to call and let us know ahead of time as well. So there's a little flexibility built in for some people. But with you, you've got something that's covering you 7 days a week here. So
7 days. Yep.
I have one question. I notice on the Serve Safe, we have one person listed as a waitress. There'll only be one person that will be handling the alcohol and serving it.
No, actually, I'm gonna go do the tip training, and also my wife is gonna do the tip training as well.
Okay.
And
We'll
we
need
have
we'll need that on file also when
Yep.
you get that, in order
Yep.
to do that. So as of right now, when this goes through, if those haven't been done, that's the only person that can handle it.
exactly over.
Okay.
Selectman Tropiano? Yeah.
I'd like to make one other suggestion. You know, oftentimes we have people who have, you know, they sort of do a setup and they send somebody in to check to see about whether you're carding them or whatever, and, you know, that if they're illegal and so on and so forth. And it's kind of a requirement that they do that,
Yep.
and they do it. And the best way that I've always found that just eliminates the issue for you is just card everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I know that some people say, well, we card at the 45. You know what I mean? Just card everybody, and then you'll never have that issue. You'll
Right.
never be here in front of us. It'll be awesome. Okay?
Exactly. Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else to be said? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to come speak to this during the public hearing portion? Well, Selectman Whiteside, did you have something?
Actually, I do have one question. I noticed on your building plan, oh, I guess those are inside too. I was looking at the ladies' rooms.
Yep.
The number of units that you might have. It's always a
Uh,
problem.
Inside, we have a men's room and ladies' room, and also
One stall?
uh,
one-
yeah, one stall.
Okay, and then you also have outside access?
Outside, we also have a men's and ladies' room outside,
And they would be one stall as well?
one stall.
And what is the seating capacity?
Seating capacity, I believe it's around 60.
I'm going to have some very unhappy ladies.
Yeah, I know.
Very. I wouldn't want to go outside to have to go to the ladies' room.
No, exactly. I understand that.
Anything else? So, can I have a motion to close the public hearing portion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Motion was by Selectman Titlebaum, second by
Selectman
Selectman
Tropiano,
Tropiano, sorry.
second by Selectman Whiteside.
Whiteside. Getting sleepy.
400. Okay.
Make a motion to go ahead and award an annual common vic alcoholic beverage license to Barnacle Bill's Seafood LLC, DBA Barnacle Bill's Seafood, 3126 Cranberry Highway, manager Andrew L. Matos. And the hours as listed for right now is Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., Sundays, 12 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Would
Why
you
don't
like
you take
to
us an
go
opportunity
ahead.
to tell us about the food you serve at your restaurant and how long you've been there, and talk yourself up for a couple of minutes.
Well, we stay with the same type of seafood, that type, but we added some New Bedford-style Portuguese cuisine with shrimp Mozambique and shrimp New Orleans and chicken Madeira, just different type of meals. And we turned it into a full service. We have a full waitress staff now. So pretty much just the same that was there, and we just added a little bit of Portuguese flair to it. That's about it.
Okay, then. Well, thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you, guys.
We also have a common vic license for them?
I don't see anything in there for a common vic.
They already got it.
They must have already have one, right?
Don't know why it's there. Nothing here.
He must have his common vic. I don't see anything here.
We apologize. We look like we have a possible error on the agenda. It has a common vic license, but I don't see any paperwork here for that.
Yeah, we've got you listed twice, Mr. Matos. I don't know why. You're just here for the one application. Obviously, the restaurant application carried over when you purchased the establishment or got involved with it, so I don't know why it's on here twice. But Looks to me like you're good to go to serve whatever you want.
Okay. Next, we have the requests of the Onset Cape Verdean Festival Association for an August 10th, 2013, use of the town roads with a rain date of August 11th, 2013. Is anybody here?
Just come up, please, to the table.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mike Roderick, Event Coordinator, and
Janine Rose, President.
Well, why don't you tell us what you're looking to do here? I think a lot of people know already. This is just an annual
yes, it's
event
an
here,
annual,
but some people may not, so.
annual Cape Verdean cultural event attended by anywhere from 15 to 20,000 people. We have over 100 vendors, which enables us to work closely with the town of Wareham Police Department, Onset Fire Department, and the municipal department. So this is our 10th year that this group has been in charge, and we're just looking for another excellent year. All the permits have been pulled, and this is the result.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'll go around the table. Selectman Whiteside?
Yes, hopefully you've been in touch with Mr. St. Julian at the high school. He took a group of students to the Cape Verde Islands for vacation. It was in the press.
Yes, I know.
And okay, great. I'm sure that they would love to make sure that they were part of this, the kids.
Oh, they were.
Hmm?
They were a part of the festival last year.
Yeah, they had a float that we were supposed to do a parade, but due to the rain, we were unable to do that. So they, the town, actually, the police department let them set up, and they got, a lot of good reviews on their float.
Nice. Well, I'm sure they'd love to do it again because they were very excited about their trip and they learned a lot.
I just think I wanted to say that this is, as usual, a great part of Wareham. The Cape Verdean Festival has really sort of flourished, and I know a lot of people have a good time with it, and I'm just glad you keep it going.
Thank you, and we will.
I enjoy the food.
I do too. Thank you.
So don't about 20,000 other people. No, well, thank you once again for your work in this regard and putting this together. It's a massive undertaking. Just the permitting and going through the various town departments is a lot of work, let alone the preparation leading up to the festival itself. So we're very appreciative that you folks have taken the bull by the horns here and are doing it. So thank you.
I have all the requirements from all the different departments have signed off, so everything is in place. I'll make a motion to go ahead and give them the permit to use town roads for the annual Onset Cape Verdean Festival, August 10th, 2013, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Rain date is August 11th, 2013.
Second.
Excuse me, do we need to be specific about which roads?
Yes, we do. So I would ask you to just amend the motion to say the ban shall the bluffs and to close off a portion of Union Avenue.
On the permit, there's nothing.
It does say, though.
Up at the top.
Oh.
There you go.
Never mind. I'll do it
We don't want
again.
anybody coming back and saying you didn't tell them what they could use.
Okay.
I mean, we know you know, but.
Yes.
Onset Cape Verdean Festival Association, care of Michael Roderick, P.O. Box 722, Onset, Mass. For use of the Onset band shell and bluffs, and to close off a portion of Union Ave for the following. This is the festival.
Second again.
I'll get it right 2 times at least.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Thank you very much. Good luck, and I hope you don't have a rainy day.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
No rain.
Okay. Next, please.
I need a new pair of glasses. We'll go back to the appointment interview for Zoning Board of Appeals, Associate Member. And that is Mrs. Gerald. Here? No here. Depends on what the board's wishes are. We have a letter from Ken Ferreira, the chairman of the ZBA, recommending this person be accepted as an associate member.
Well, with the board's indulgence, I'd say we go ahead and vote to appoint. I don't think there's any particular need to wait and grill this person if they've already gotten the thumbs up from the chairman of that body.
Yeah. Person was at least one ZBA meeting, sat and talked to them, and there was a discussion, and they basically came back with a unanimous decision to ask her to be appointed.
Exactly.
I'll make a motion to appoint Elizabeth Gerald, 14 Pleasant Ave, Onset, Mass, as an associate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the term to expire no later than June 30th, 2014. Associates are usually 1 year, that's why the short date.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 400. Congratulations.
Item A, discussion on guidance to town administrator for the next year.
Yeah, this is a recurring item. It usually gets caught up with item B, which is discussion on budget for fiscal year 14. Generally, the conversation morphs into a discussion of both items at once. So with that in mind, are there any questions for Administrator Sullivan? Is there anything people would like to say going into our meeting on Thursday night with the school committee, where we hope to hear a resolution to the budget issues and to be able to vote amongst ourselves to go to town meeting with a unified proposal and also to provide that to the FinCom for their review. Selectman Whiteside?
Yes, I just want to say that, again, I continue to be impressed with Mr. Sullivan and the people who work with him and for him. I think it feels like I've been a selectman for 400 years, but I think it's only been a month and 3 days or something like that. And I've met a lot of people, and I'm very impressed with the rapport that you have built with all of your department heads and the other elected officials. I think it's great. I would like to see you and the department heads and elected officials who are in charge of getting money into the town really figure out some innovative ways of getting our fees up. One of the things that has occurred to me as I have driven around the town looking here and there is that, and it's something that actually came up in one of the budget presentations, that there should really be some cameras in town in the hotspot stoplights that people run, the highly traveled areas where people speed. It seems to me that if we had cameras that capture the license plate, that I know this program is used throughout the country, and a camera, if it goes down, can be replaced. It doesn't have to be paid workman's comp or anything like that. It means that you have a 24-hour view on, a stoplight at whatever intersection you choose. I, just off the top of my head, came up with about 15 that would net you about 100 tickets a day each. So that's one thing that I would urge that you suggest and talk about with your police chief. The other thing I think is that all of our town fees, and I've talked with you about this before, that the budget presentation really needs to include, and I'm not talking about for this about to be year, I'm talking about as we start building our budget in another couple of months for the next fiscal year, that we really need to be looking at revenues, and that ought to be part of the presentation. I think people in this town are entitled to know that this board or commission costs us X and receives triple X in funds, grants, that kind of thing. I think that's a very important piece of fiscal responsibility and being able to figure out, should we keep it? Should we grow it? Should we cut it? Should we consolidate it? That kind of thing.
Selectman Tropiano?
How are we doing for Thursday's presentation?
I met with the superintendent today. We went over some of the numbers and some of the changes. I know tomorrow he will be meeting with his board, and there's going to be a good portion of how we make out Thursday is going to depend on tomorrow night.
Well, but, I mean, when we left that meeting, there was a specific job attached. The job was to use a specific number. We talked about the numbers for you both to go back and do that presentation. And is that presentation going to be ready for Thursday night?
Yes.
Okay, that's all. I'm just wondering where we stand on that. Because I know that the tendency would be to try to, tweak the deal a little bit, but the presentation that we were asking for is the presentation that we want to see. And I know neither of you are going to like it. Trust me, I believe me, I don't like it. Nobody likes it. But I know it's something that has to be done, and I think has to be presented that way. Thank you.
This is going to be a very difficult couple days coming up, to say the least.
Say the least.
I think from my basic guidance and suggestions is going to be, we're going to have to be looking, obviously, just going down the line quickly, we're going to have to be looking at our library budget. We're going to have to look at our police budget, harbor master. Just as a few, there's certain places like our licensing boards, we can't do much. We're at bare minimum people there. They generate revenue back. We really can't cut those back because it ends up costing the town money. There's going to be some hard choices. We're going to have to look possibly at some third-party contributions possibly to cover some of the costs in town. We're going to have to reach out a little bit. I sent everybody, I think yesterday, a note from Serped, may have gone out today, actually, showing the different services that Serped offers for sharing services, reaching out. When I say reach out, basically I asked them, was there a program in which if we have a certain piece of equipment and 2 or 3 towns around us doesn't have that equipment, is there a way that we could lease out the equipment and our employee to go do the job for them? And he said, yeah, that's a possibility. It's something that, it's not a novel idea, but it's something that's actually, because of the lack of revenue, it's feasible today where it wasn't a few years back. Because towns don't have the equipment, can't buy it, so they're in a situation where we have bought, especially with municipal maintenance, some substantial equipment, but don't have enough bodies always to run them. So these are just a few of the things that we have going on that we're going to need to look at. And as far as going past, as Patrick and I spoke earlier today, June 19th is a new day of starting from scratch and just looking at everything and tearing it all apart and trying to figure out how to put it back together. I believe it's going to take us a couple of years because 2015's budget is looking much more severe than 2014. So it's not going to be easy, but we're going to have to ask people to make some changes.
No, it is going to be a difficult year, and to the extent that Selectman Slavin just mentioned, looking for third-party assistance, it's true. You're going to see the Board of Selectmen essentially transformed into a board of beggars in some respects, to try to get assistance, to try to maintain a level of service that's going to be short of the level of service currently provided. I do make no mistake about that. We also need to be cognizant that the schools are going through a difficult year. They had presented, I think, what could be fairly characterized as somewhat of a needs budget, and already they've seen that whittled down internally by themselves by a significant amount. And the agreed percentages that we are going to use for Thursday night's presentation are going to mean that they are whittled down even further, as are we. On the, I shouldn't say we, we're all we. The other town departments, I think, is the best way to characterize it. So nobody is going to come out of Thursday's meeting pleased, relieved, but I hope we come out with something that we can bring forward to town meeting that is acceptable, if not pleasant.
Well done.
Thank you.
Next item is a payment for earth removal for Highland Inc. We get a monthly piece from JC Engineering, which oversees the paperwork for Highland. We get quarterly reports. We get paid on a quarterly basis as well. About, I think before, a little over a year ago, I think I remember when I first got on the board, there was an outstanding bill from Highland because of some financial issues for a little over $20,000. I think they've made one payment against that, a very small amount. I believe they still owe us $17,000 or $18,000 on old earth removal. They're current paying their normal quarters. We were supposed to put something together in which they would pay us, as a separate payment on a reasonable time frame. To me, 1 year is not a reasonable time frame to have receive one little payment.
Well, just to update you, I did today take a look in the file in our office to see the records of what had come in. The agreement, I believe, that was arrived at was for them to begin paying $1,000 a month towards the arrearage. They did send a check for $4,000 towards, I believe, the end of January, thereabouts. So in accordance with the understanding, anyway, I don't know that it was something formally decided. But in any event, if they're paying $1,000 a month, if they started in January, they've got January, February, March, and April covered. So they're now on track, albeit taking a while to get them on the track in the first place, I think would be the best way to characterize it. So it appears they've made a good faith payment and a start to this. Further in that regard, I would defer to Mr. Sullivan to tell us how he has acquired a security interest on behalf of the town in an excavating machine.
Okay.
Yes, we've attached to a 1995 Caterpillar 312 excavator. Current value was about $60,000. We've attached that. There's no other notes on the equipment, and they do not pay. They default. We have some equipment to sell. Yeah, that's spelled, yes. So that was one of the
Works
things.
for me.
The feeling is if we're going to act as a bank, then we'll act as a bank.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to do this is when somebody gets behind in that particular case. Look, if they're moving the product, they're selling the product, they're getting paid for the product. Turn your mic down, please. They're selling the product, they're moving the product. If they don't come up with the money, then you simply just shut them down so that they don't move any more product. Simple. Go over there, send the thing, say you're out of here. When you make up the payment, then you can, whatever, if that's the case. I mean, I understand you made a deal with them and we'll allow the deal to keep going. But in the future, let's just not let it happen. Let's just get the money.
Well,
It would be different if they weren't selling the product. See, if they, you know what I'm saying? But they are.
Well, this was something that the board immediately prior to this one, I want to say discovered. Whether it should have been discovered long before that is, of course, another question altogether. But I'm not going to get into that. But that's really the gist of it. Once it came to the attention of this board, they came in before us. We had Attorney Bowen will recall, their lawyer and I had a rather interesting dialogue over certain uses of language. And as I recall, the board kind of went along with what I had to say and not what he had to say. And hence, we're getting the back money here. But you're correct in the sense that we don't want to let things get 3 years behind anymore. That's, a couple of months, okay. There needs to be a tracking system for people who do have licenses such as this or fees attached to things that they remove from the ground where we have a regulatory interest. So it might not be a bad idea going forward to come up with a selectmen's policy for identifying all of those things, taking a look at them, quantifying when we should get paid, and setting forth time limits under which we can proceed against them if they don't pay. Attorney Bowen, and then you, Selectman Whiteside.
I think there's already provisions for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The person at Graziano with whom I've been dealing with, Linda, who apparently does their accounts. What I will do tomorrow, or perhaps even this evening, is get in touch with Linda and thank her for being current, but remind her that the next $1,000 is due.
Thank you.
Yes, you may not have contemplated that Dunning would be part of the services we would require from you, but here we are. Selectman Whiteside?
Yes, thank you. I think that with the institution of some better bookkeeping practices, for better use of the word, we can track our receivables. You owe us money, you pay us money. I don't think we need to come up with a policy for pay your bills.
Yeah, look, if I have widgets to sell and I sell the widgets, that means I made money. So I should pay for the widgets. You see what I'm saying? So I don't have any problem with that. I don't have a problem being tough on somebody who sold the product. You know what I'm saying? If they weren't selling the product, if they were just sitting there and the product wasn't leaving, there wasn't being any sold, then that'd be different. But that's how it's based. They base it on what they take out of there anyway. So, it's just a different, this is 101, basically.
Last year it had been discovered that we received quarterly reports, I believe, for the earth that was removed.
Yeah.
That was all well and good. We'd never received any payments, and they said, yes, you've never billed us. So the reports were coming into the BOS office and were being filed, and they were filed in the BOS office, and they never went any further. So there was nothing behind it. So when the boards discovered this, we said, yes, not only is it not our problem for billing you, you should be sending the payment. Let's get on that. You also owe us the past due. And there was a very lengthy debate with their counsel on this. So
Well, if that's the case, then they should be holding on to the money, waiting for the bill.
Yep.
So that means when the bill came, they should have had the money to pay out at that point, right? I mean, again, back to 101. You know what I'm saying? So did they think it was free because we didn't bill them?
They were hoping. Selectman Slavin?
Very, very quick and simple. We're not a bank. We're not getting any interest on the money we're collecting. And I don't want to see the town of Wareham become a bank.
Well, in many respects, you already are. We already are, because we have several properties that are in tax title, tax lien. We have several bills outstanding from whether they're corporations, LLCs, DBAs, whatever. They're not paying. So we, in fact, are a bank, and we're the easiest person not to pay. The electrical, Verizon shuts your phone off, N-Star shuts your power off, the bank repos your car. It's basic. It's not even 101. It's 100 accounting.
Just one more thing. There's a lot of towns, and I'm willing to bet you the majority of towns actually have a bylaw that doesn't allow you to take material out of town at all. So they're great. They should be grateful that we're even allowing to take the material out of this town to begin with. And you think that they would cover us and take care of, what we're allowing them to do.
Is there anything else? Let's move on to the next item, please.
Discussion on and possible vote on the transportation bid award. This is for the school department.
Does everybody have this? This came as a separate document outside of the original packet. Perhaps Mr. Sullivan can speak to this?
do you want us
Yes,
to-
I signed it.
I was just going to say, this is capital expense, obviously. Although, you know me, I don't really think that these are capital expenses. When you have police station and you run a police department, you need police cars. I don't see that as being a capital expense. We're not putting a new building up or whatever. And buses are important to run a bus company. You got to have a bus. To run an ambulance company, you got to have ambulances. I mean, these are these are sort of the basics, But as our charter requires, this is a capital expense because it's defined as motor vehicles, which is in the charter, if I'm not mistaken.
These are used so that it doesn't fall under there, but because they're over $25,000, they do.
Really?
Yeah. Our charter actually says new vehicles.
It says new only?
Yeah.
Really?
So if it's more than
I have to look at it.
$25,000, then it becomes a capital item again.
Okay, so
So these qualify as capital item.
they qualify as capital because they're $77,000.
I believe also this was prior approved as far as the monies
They're
from
35.
town meeting.
70,000.
I thought the capital limit was 30,000.
25.
25, and these are 70,000 for the two buses.
So 35
Yes,
apiece. So they're over the 25. So it's still back to capital.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, so how does this fit with our austerity program?
This should be part of the fall town meeting when we borrowed the money for the gym roof, to purchase vehicles for the town, and also for vehicles for the school as well. So this is where they'd be purchasing it from that. We still have, there was also to fix a part of the library and some security measures for town hall.
Okay.
So that would be part of that.
So it's covered.
It's covered, it's part of, we still, as soon as these are all taken care of, we borrow for it. You know, there's some measures that have already been done, so we'll have to do a ban, but we can't borrow for everything until all the items have been taken care of.
Right. That's fine. Okay. I'm good with this.
I believe that the town administrator, as the procurement officer for the town, has to sign this. I don't believe the board does.
Correct. I would be the one to sign this. We'd held up because there was a question. Originally, they wished to give us 3 buses if we traded 2 in. However, that was beyond the scope of the bid, so we turned that down.
So are you looking then for a vote from us to authorize you to go ahead with this procurement?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and authorize the town administrator as procurement officer to go ahead and sign the contract to purchase 2 used buses for a
Second.
total cost of $70,000.
Okay, you can do it. Go ahead.
Second.
Anything else to be said? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Motion by Selectman Slavin, second by Selectman Whiteside.
I see the harbor master is not
And
here.
next up, please.
We have a vote on seasonal soft shell clamming areas. I guess my S's aren't good today. Sorry, Mrs. Whiteside, I failed in vocabulary. We do not have the harbor master here, and the only question we would have is has this gone through the stakeholders involved, that everybody understands and is in agreement? I believe we do this every year, but
Well, I see no stakeholders here, and this was noticed on a public meeting agenda, so,
Yeah.
and it's not a matter for hearing.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
We said it
Please.
every year.
Selectman Whiteside?
Well, that's nice. I have a question. How do you give permission to clam on federal property?
good question.
It is a good question.
We're looking at town council and getting a shrug.
He's doing the same.
I'm stumped.
Good. Item number 2 is federal property, owned by the federal government.
Stony Day.
Mhm. So I would ask that we do not take any action on this at this.
Well, I would assume if this is a pro forma request that comes through year after year after year, to establish this in time for the season to begin, so that people can commence harvesting. Stony Point Dike has been a source of clams personally since I was about 4 years old. So I'm guessing nothing has changed in the meantime.
Yes, it has. Several areas on the dike have been restricted because of the nesting of the piping plovers. And there is a ranger stationed on the dike for many hours a day.
Tastes like chicken.
Okay, let's not have an environmental debate here.
I have really no issue, no talk for this,
Well-
believe me.
So, I mean, the Corps of Engineers doesn't actually encourage any usage of the dike, if you ask them.
Well, we
Mr.
should-
Attorney Bowen?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a copy of the policy, but is it proposing to ban soft shell clamming
No,
for a certain
allow.
period of time?
Allow it.
Allow,
This
okay.
is to open these areas for the annual season.
You could add the caveat to the extent lawful.
Yeah, you can move with,
Yeah, I can do that.
so. Is there anything else to be said on this? Selectman Whiteside, why don't you make the motion, please?
Do you want me to read it?
No?
You have to read the whole thing.
I'll do it. I'll make a motion that we have a soft shell clamming seasonal areas, and in accordance with Section 3 of the Rules and Regulations for the taking of shellfish, eels, and seaworms, the Board of Selectmen shall close all areas to the taking of soft shell clams from June 1st, 2013 through September 15th, 2013, except for the following areas. Areas are open Monday through Saturday. Warren Point westerly to the eastern corner of Management Area Number 3, 67 Towhee Road. Number 2, Stony Point Dike, with the extent that it's lawful. Item 3, Widow's Cove, Bass Cove. Item 4, southern tip of Burgess Point to Codden's Point. 5, Wicket's Island. 6, the northerly point of Lydia's Island to the western end of Burgess Point. 7, Cromeset from the beach in front of number 4, Seahorse Lane, southeasterly to the dock located at the northern end of Nopska Point. 8, points of Sunset Cove rainfall area as identified on the shellfish status map. Areas open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Number 1, Management Area Number 3, Long Beach. That's it.
I'll
All
second
areas
it.
approved by the Board of Selectmen will be identified by the shellfish status maps located in the multi-service building near the Harbor Master's office, Tempest Knob Boat Ramp, and the Onset Pier Harbor Master Seasonal Office.
Second it. May I just add something? May I? Just want to make sure that people understand that in several areas of the town, there are in fact shellfish grants. There is no outside clamming or anything on those grants. It is a
Yep.
violation of the law. So that, and they are clearly marked.
Yes, they are.
Our harbor master is well aware of those.
They're not in these
So-
areas.
Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Thank you. Next, please.
We have 0901 Wareham traffic policies to include the chapters.
Yes, this is on the agenda because, frankly, Attorney Bowen, we are going to request that you take a look at this policy and ascertain which sections are relevant to the Board of Selectmen and which sections should be carved out of this policy and handed over to the road commissioners for them to adopt or otherwise do as they see fit with them. It's with the creation of by the town meeting of a separate road commissioners body. There are many things in this policy that no longer are under the custody, care, or control of the Board of Selectmen. And so we need to carve out those pieces and hand them off. So with that in mind, I just wanted to get this before the board so that we could understand going forward that we're going to, Attorney Bowen's going to be coming back with this, and then we will have to vote to accept the amended policy that contains those provisions still within our purview. Next item.
Discussion and possible vote on proposed management letter policy.
Yes, this is another thing. For those who like to read the blogs, and I don't always like to read them, but I do read them because it's interesting to know what people think sometimes. There's been a bit of confusion regarding the management letter. This, some people refer to as an audit. What it really is, it's a summary document that sort of gives an overview, an overflight of what the auditors have found. It's not an actual audit. You're not really going to see numbers in it or anything. But it's a guidance document that is prepared by the company that audits the town's books, the accountants, to provide guidance to the Board of Selectmen in terms of weaknesses or strengths. We hope there are more strengths than weaknesses, of course, but it's really to identify issues in accounting so that in terms of the board being a policy body, we can then guide administration to trying to fix. And with that in mind, we received the letter this year. Almost instantaneously, people were requesting to see it. We had a Freedom of Information Act request. Actually, in Massachusetts, what you're supposed to file is a Public Records Act request. Regardless, people wanted to see this. This is a document that comes to us in draft form. And really, it's not a completed document until such time as the Board of Selectmen have had an opportunity to review it, to add in any comments that they may have, wait for it to go back to the auditing company, where they will add their responses to our comments, and then and only then is the document considered final and thus no longer a draft document. This year, it came in immediately. Mr. Sullivan was besieged with requests to obtain the draft document. Number one, it's a draft document. It's not complete, and it really shouldn't go out to other people. It should come to the board. We have to discuss it in open session, so you're going to figure out a lot of the things that are in it anyway. There's no attempt to hide things here. But the issue here is one of, whose document is it? Who should be controlling it? Who should be responding to these Public Records Act requests and so forth? And I have a fundamental problem with expecting Mr. Sullivan to handle this. It's a document that, in many ways, going forward is going to be reflective upon the town administrator's performance. As the person who oversees our new financial director, which won't take effect for a little while, but it's coming down, who then oversees the accounting department. And so it's not appropriate for the town administrator to be the one who determines who gets that document. It's our document. We should make the call. And we should also make the call within a reasonable amount of time. We shouldn't sit on the thing for months on end. We normally get it provided earlier. We heard that from Mr. Sullivan last week. It usually comes in around, before Christmas. This year it was late because they bailed us out of a situation last year and then asked if they could submit it a little bit late this year because they had somebody else to bail out for something. So normally we get it earlier anyway. But what I'd like to propose, and for next week I'll have prepared a document in the form of a selectman's policy that discusses the receipt, the handling of this document, when it is discussed, and the time frame within which it shall be released as a completed document. I think that's important. I want to avoid any appearance that anybody's hanging on to this thing for political purposes. The public does have a right to see it once it is complete, but we're also entitled to spend a little bit of time in the process of making it complete. And in that regard, I did speak with town council about coming forward with a policy. So with the board's indulgence, what I would like to ask is not really a vote because I don't have anything before you, but I'd like to get a consensus to see if you want me to continue to work with Attorney Bowen to try to come up with a policy for discussion next week.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay, well, that's the end of my speech. Next item, please.
Discussion and vote on rescission of board policy special municipal employee status.
Yeah, this is another how shall I put this? A prior Board of Selectmen voted a policy whereby the town would no longer allow people to be appointed to boards, commissions, or committees using, if they did other work for the town, totally unrelated to the board, committee, or commission that they were going to serve on, using the state's exemption for that as a special municipal employee. I don't think this policy is helpful towards getting volunteers onto our boards and committees and commissions. We have a lot of vacancies. There are a lot of good people in town who may do business with one portion of the town government who could readily serve on a board or committee that is completely unrelated to the type of work that they're doing and could provide a big benefit to the town. And frankly, this policy, I think was far too broad. It kind of reminded me of the founder of the Soviet Union, Vladimir Lenin's comment that it was better to arrest 100 innocent people than let one guilty go free. And in that regard, I think it's time to do away with this. We need to trust in our citizens. We need to realize that the amendments to the open meeting law, amendments to conflicts laws that have come forward since this policy was adopted, cover and impose duties upon people who find themselves in the special municipal employee status. This does not find itself in any of our actual policy books. I don't know how it was voted upon, but then wasn't made a policy that's in the policy manual for the Board of Selectmen. But yet here it is. It's been something that, if not formalized, it's been something that other boards have seen as a restriction upon their ability to appoint such people, and I would like a vote tonight to rescind this policy. Selectman Tropiano?
Yeah, we went around and around in this last time I was on the board, and it just comes down to that in order to get qualified people on your boards, first they have to live in town. That's sort of the requirement, okay, because they have to be voters, so they have to be appointed to the committee, so they have to live in town. So it is likely that these qualified people work in town and work for the town. But yet, there is no direct conflict unless they overstep their own bounds, which means that they have to be responsible for that themselves. And they'll pay the penalty if they overstep it. And they should. And Peter's absolutely right. We should never hold everybody else accountable for what one person's doing. This is craziness. It's always sort of the thing that people like to do. They like to run out and make a policy or a decision or whatever because one person did something bad. Well, that person should be held accountable, not the whole system should be held accountable. And I totally agree with you, Peter. And I'm prepared to make the motion to restore the special municipal employee status as it appears, as we can accept it, if I'm not mistaken, Rich, right? As we can accept it from state law.
I'll second for discussion.
Go
ahead, Rich.
Who's on first?
You can let him go. He can jump in.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow up on Selectman Tropiano, by rescinding this policy, you're not automatically making everybody a special municipal employee. You're
Correct.
saying you're willing to consider it, and it gives the board the opportunity to entertain requests under its 268A, Section 1, subsection N, on a case-by-case basis. And so if someone comes before you and you think that the conflict that might otherwise appear is non-existent, you can grant it to that person and everybody who falls in that same class of employment. If you think that it doesn't pass the smell test or any test that you choose to apply, you can just say no. So you're not giving anything away. It just restores your ability to judge on a case-by-case basis.
So I keep my motion, and Mr. Whiteside has seconded it. So
Yes,
a
she had a
discussion.
point for discussion.
Yes. Mr.
Proceed,
Slavin,
please.
did you want to go first?
No, you go
No, no.
first.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I hate to say this, but we talked about this 30 years ago when I was a selectman. And it was the same nonsense that came up and went away. It is not the right way to do business. You do business by trusting people and by expecting them to do what's right. So Mr. Bowen's explanation is fine. We're not... I support the motion. Let's put it that way.
Teachers are often the biggest ones in this category.
Selectman Slavin?
This particular issue, again, goes back to what the state has done over the last 3 or 4 years with the different ethics, rules and conflict rules, etc. It almost self-polices itself because anybody can make a complaint about anybody at all, but just one person. So The idea that we have to have people that are highly qualified to do work for the town as a volunteer not be able to do it is really a shame, because we have a lot of boards in town that are hurting for people, just for members, for quorums, people who are qualified to do the work. And I believe what happened back in, I guess it's May of 2007, they kind of abolished the special employee exemption, but we're going to handle it on a case-by-case basis, is the way the motion was actually, if I read it right. But I think the idea of leaving the special municipal status being available, and then we still have that option. So I don't have a problem with it. I just feel disappointed because back when this was done, I went on one committee, which I think was Tremont Nail Master Plan Committee. I got appointed to the committee, and 4 days later this happened, and I ended up with 3 members having to leave. Well, 2 members had to leave the committee immediately, and all of a sudden I became chairman of a committee with no background, no history or anything. And it was really,
Can you just recite the statute again, Mr. Bowen? Make that part of the record.
It's Chapter 268A, Section 1, subsection N. That's the definitional section of the statute, and subsection N spells out the definition of special municipal employee.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else to be said in the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 400.
I have one item here. I'm not sure what's going to be the town administrator's report, health insurance negotiation that we have to sign. It wasn't listed in the agenda.
Yes, that's you've already approved that. That's the change in the healthcare splits for the next 6 years. So just while I had everybody assembled, I'd
Yeah,
like
so
to
you'll
get
do
to
that
see
during
it.
your,
We can request it. It's not even really an agenda item. It would just be
well, why don't we do it during your report?
Okay.
That way it'd be correct, and we won't be going out of order of anything.
I'll read it next week.
Is there any other town business we didn't reasonably anticipate in the last 48 hours? No.
Motion to adjourn.
No, we still have
Oh.
town administrator's report.
Oh.
Don't let Mr. Sullivan off the hook. Come
I'm
on.
sorry, I withdraw that motion.
You just did an Allen.
I thought you were all set.
Oh, you just did an Allen.
I just did an Allen. All right. I feel at home.
And Jerry didn't get up and say anything.
And Jerry didn't say anything.
He's getting too happy today.
All right, Mr. Sullivan, I guess you could.
Town administrator's report.
So
Trying to cut you off at the pass.
to leave some of the gloom and doom to later on in the presentation, let's start off with some of the good news. One of it is asking the board to sign the change in healthcare splits from our employees. It's something you've heard over the past few weeks. The projections, if our healthcare continues to rise at about 6% per year, will be that the town will save a little over $4 million on it, is the understanding. We had gone into negotiations under 32B with sections, I'm terrible at quoting these things, but 21 to 23, I believe, which would have been either making plan design changes or going into the GIC. The plan design changes meant that there would be severely high deductibles. And in working with the employees, we came up with another method, was to keep the health insurances that we have, but change the splits in order to save the town money. They understand what's happening and the dire straits that the town is in. So they worked with us to make sure that we would be able to have these savings. Now, conversely, if we're saving money and the splits have changed, the employees are incurring more costs. And that is something that when the PEC voted on it, you required 7%. Everybody that attended voted, and that was well over 80%. So I appreciate all their help on this. The next item that I would have is something from the Make Peace Neighborhood Fund. I'd like to read a letter that our harbor master received. Dear Mr. Buckminster, on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Make Peace Neighborhood Fund, I'm pleased to inform you that the Wareham Harbor Master Shellfish Department has been awarded a grant in the amount of $8,000 for oyster restoration. Your proposal is among 24 that were selected for funding. The trustees and members of the Makepeace staff who participated in the review process were impressed by the important and creative work being done by the nonprofit and municipal organizations which submitted proposals. We hope you're able to attend a reception for the grant recipients scheduled for Thursday, May 9th at 4 p.m. So I'd like to thank the Makepeace Neighborhood Fund and Mr. Buckminster and his staff that worked on this to help us get this. Additionally, something that I had missed was if you go to the Mass Municipal Association website, mma.org, there's a community corner section, and I'm always looking, seeing what the other communities are doing. It's one of the ways you can try and figure out how to make effective changes without reinventing the wheel. And I missed that in April 4th, there was a little blurb on there, if you will, about MEMA praising Wareham's emergency planning. So it was nice to see that we were getting some credit on there. That's something that if you ever get a chance, look in there, because there's a lot of good information, and it felt good to see what we were receiving. The next item is going to start the befuddlement. It is about depreciation and the enterprise fund, which, let me pull up the information. The DOR manual is where you can look for the enterprise fund, is where you can see what they're speaking about in depreciation. In the beginning, they have a blurb that says, "Why have an enterprise fund?" It provides useful management information, consolidating revenues, expenses, and operating performances of the fund. Provides the community with useful decision-making information regarding user charges and fees, and a subsidy if necessary. The community can also include in the enterprise fixed assets and infrastructure as assets and recognize the annual depreciation of these assets in audited financial statements. Now, you go to the section, what should enterprise funds do and not do? And one of the questions is, should an enterprise fund budget for depreciation? No, depreciation is a technical accounting term to match costs specific to a certain accounting period with the associated revenues. So I think one of the things that we're missing is we don't budget for depreciation. However, they can list it in the audited statements. And I think that's the big difference there. So, but I think we should get further information on there. But I just want to make sure that point was out there.
Mike?
It does change the bottom line, and at some point you have to decide what to do with it and what to do with it and where to put it. That's more appropriate.
Right. And I think that's going to be part of what we should be doing, because that, however, the city or town may budget for the replacement of capital assets, and that's
Right.
what we should
and
be
that's
doing.
where you should be doing.
Right. So I think that's one of the key
Because
components.
you already
of
have
it.
an issue like that at Swiss Beach, where the line is transite and it's causing us a lot of problems. And most of our inflow and infiltration is happening in that area. And it's costing us. It's also reducing our capacity at the plant. So at some point, it might behoove us to save some money and put a pump system in there and high pressurize that line so that it's only 4 feet below the ground in a 2-inch line, that with grinders that would solve the issue. And not only would it solve the issue, but it would save us a ton of inflow, which is huge. I mean, that's huge in our capacity. And we are getting down to the end here.
Right, and I think a lot of people probably don't understand when you're saying the transite pipe, but that's some of the old forms that.
Well, I can tell you this: transite pipe, if you just look at it wrong, it breaks. I mean, a lot of the old water pipes were done in transite, and if you dig a hole and you find a transite pipe, you never want to see that, because chances are, as soon as you see it, it's going to open right up on you. And I actually was shot out of a hole from a 14-inch transite main that blew open while I was in the hole, and just shot me right out like a rocket.
So you've had some experience.
Yes. Transite is not good stuff.
Thank you on that.
I ad lib.
The next section that I have for you is the expenditure report with the revenues as well. Also listed in there are something that I think would be important for the board to see, which are some of the memos going back to December of what we've been doing
I was going to ask you about this today. Good job.
for the budget cuts. Starting back in December 5th, it was when Governor Patrick was looking at cutting the unrestricted local government aid, and we immediately put a 1% restriction on all expenses and held that on the town side of the government. That wouldn't include such items as the veteran services, because you can't really hold that. That's something you have to pay out. And that altogether put aside roughly $20,000 as a contingency if the governor were to go through on that. The next item you'd see is in December, and effective just after the new year are some of the changes that the Wareham Police Department had made to save on salaries. Following that is on April 9th, we froze all the expenditures of the departments that are not the ones that are contractually obligated, or items such as fuel for some of the vehicles, or electricity. So it's all non-expenditure. So if somebody needs, well, actually we don't have any more soap in our bathrooms right now. That's something that we haven't ordered. And we've been the Board of Health luckily had the little hand sanitizers for us, so we've handed some of those out. So it's we've corrected that one to get some through the end of the year, but the departments are taking it seriously, and they understand where we are. On the front of this is if you will, an executive summary going through some of the departments that have an outlier. Now, this is the February report. I expect the March numbers to actually be in, I was hoping, the end of next week, if not sooner. One of the other items, sort of in conjunction with that, is Monday, Powers and Sullivan has come to Town Hall, and they are doing their pre-audit, asking for information, going through things as well. So after they go through that, we'll look at what time to schedule them.
Selectman Tropiano?
I'm reading your synopsis here, and of course, I already knew about some of this already.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed one thing that sort of is scary to me is that the line item where it says that they have contacted the district attorney's office to push all the cases off until after July 1.
Yeah.
That's just shuffling the money or pushing the penny forward.
Yeah.
And that sort of doubles your issue next year. You know what I mean? So I'm not so sure that that's going to work. And it also says that all non-mandatory training will be terminated until July 1. Well, I know that somebody just recently went to motorcycle school. And, you know, this sort of violates that policy. You know, I respect and like the fact that you tried to take action. Mm-hmm. And get a handle on it right away, and I think that's a tremendous a thing for you to have done and try to get out there. But some of the ways that we do it, I think we have to be more cautious of, because I think that it won't solve the problem for you, and a matter of fact, will show up as a sort of a worse situation next year, and those things need to be looked at as you're doing your budget now for next year. How you're going to handle that if there's $100,000 that you pushed into next year, and I'm guessing that's probably somewhere in the numbers of pushing those cases out, and because of the overtime costs, obviously. Now you have an extra $100,000 plus it's likely you'll have a similar number of cases, or if not more. So that $100,000 is sort of not budgeted for next year. See what I'm saying? So you're going to be missing it next season. And then where do you go from there? You know what I'm saying? So I think when you're looking at your budget now, you're going to have to take that into account somehow, in order to make sure that we don't run into that problem where next year you're saying, well, okay, we're 100 or 200,000 or whatever it ends up being over again. That kind of thing can't happen right now for obvious reasons. There's just no money to replace it. And I hope you'll take what I'm saying and just kind of feed it into your policy as we're looking at this budget for next year, FY14. Okay?
Whiteside?
I have a question. It was one of the 93 that I asked you on that long memo. Snow and ice.
Yes.
How do we contract with people,
We have-
non-town employees?
We have a standard contract for the snowplow drivers, if you will. One of the first things, make sure they don't owe us any taxes. It used to be that people would owe us years worth of taxes and get on our snowplow list and we'd pay them. No, we don't do that anymore. But with them, the now goes through the accounting department as well. So the accountant verifies that the truck that they're saying is the actual truck. They have to come. We have the VIN number on there. They have to match up. Has to be the same person. They have to have insurances on there. There's a minimum amount of insurance. So this has gone from a, for lack of a better term,
Wing
hey,
and a prayer?
yeah, hey guys, grab your plow, to trying to professionalize it.
Okay. Do you pay a differential for different size plows?
That's one of the things that I don't know that I've been trying to get the answer on. So.
Yeah,
Thank you.
typically, and I've plowed for bunches of different towns, typically they pay by the weight of the vehicle. That's, I mean, it just is what it is. Costs more money to operate a bigger vehicle, so you have to get paid more money to make it work. Otherwise, it just doesn't work for anybody, that's why. So.
One of the items that we're going to have problems with is we use, for the private roads and the back roads, our own vehicles, which are massive. We had, from plowing private roads, $19,000 worth of damage to our vehicles.
Excuse me. From way back when, there are at least 3 different kinds of roads. There's a town accepted, a town non-accepted, and a private. Right? Is there another category that I don't know about?
There would be.
Paper streets.
Yeah, okay. Why are we plowing private property?
That is a great question.
It's a very good question.
I have an answer.
I'm asking Mr. Sullivan.
We actually have not, I don't believe we've accepted the chapter from the state law that allows us to do that. And one of the other items is,
I have the answer. Could I, let me just throw in a little tidbit, okay? And it's may be another way to change it nowadays. But some time ago, many years ago, when the state had some reimbursement for plowing and so on, it was done by the mile of road that you had. So typically the municipal maintenance departments would put in every single mile of road, private, paper, whatever it was, they would put it in because they'd want the most amount of money back. And unfortunately now it's hard to tell people that since you've been plowing their road all these years, and since you got money at some point to plow those roads, I'm sorry, sir, but we're no longer plowing your road. Even though technically we don't have to plow a private street, and we don't have to plow paper roads, and we don't have to plow, these other types of roads. But that's how it all came to be.
Now-
And all towns are dealing with the same issue. Now, Mr. Bowen, I think could shed some light.
The benefit of saying that you're not going to plow the private roads is that those roads will be brought up to code, the standard, so that they can be accepted. The problem is that you've had a whole lot of subdivisions go in where the roads were not put in when they could have been, and made town acceptable ways at the time. To go back and fix them is $1 million a mile, is the figure that's been tossed around. So we, the town fathers, let it happen. It can't go on.
Yes, Attorney Bowen?
Mr. Chairman, I think Selectman Tropiano has hit the nail on the head in terms of the motivation for getting all these things on the books. I think there used to be federal highway money as well that was also involved in the fiction of increasing your mileage. Not that we did that here, of course. That being said, technically, there are only two types of roads that you're supposed to plow: public ways and private ways that are open to public use, which have been identified in either a bylaw or a vote of town meeting. And anything other than that, you have no legal obligation, and some would go so far as to say no legal ability to plow those roads or maintain them or do anything.
I could tell you right now that if you don't plow those roads, this room's going to be full. And not only is it going to be full, but there's going to be a lot of angry mobs in here.
Well, I hope it's full of people who bring their checkbooks.
You know, so I understand what we're talking about here, but you know, like every other town grapples with the same thing. But there's such a thing as called being realistic in life, and unfortunately, we have to be realistic.
You're looking at one of next year's budget savers, $25,000 a storm. We most likely will not be able to afford plowing the private roads next year with next year's budget. We also will not be able to grade them as we are currently doing.
Selectman Whiteside?
When does your term end?
I don't know, not so bad.
It just seems to me that a lot of people in this town bought property that they thought was on, and maybe they didn't know about accepted streets and non-accepted streets and all that other stuff. But the fact of the matter is, if they're living on a private road, it's a private road. And there may be a lot of very angry people in December. They may not be angry until the snow flies. Or maybe they'll come in next week and lynch me and you.
Yeah.
But it's you know, we are, if you want to use the term technically bankrupt, we are technically bankrupt, fiscally technically bankrupt. So we have to look at ways to cut back on the services that we must, you know, that we do provide. There are services that we must provide, and they are public safety and schools. Now, you can make the argument, I'm sure, that public safety includes being able to get an ambulance down a private road to an elderly person or a non-elderly person. But I think that we also need to understand that many of these problems were created by the town and by the people who purchased the land and by the developers.
Some of the other towns, what they've done is sent out notices to all the private roads that they would need to upgrade them to a minimum standard, not paving, not asphalt, but 14 feet wide, 14-foot vertical clearance, no potholes in there, because it takes a toll on our vehicles, on the people. Sandwich did it, for instance. You also needed to get 100% of the butters to sign off on it, because we plow their roads. It's a private road. We hit one of their sprinklers or something. They tell us we owe them $1,200. So there's, yeah.
It was a prize sprinkler.
That was a gold sprinkler.
And a gold sprinkler.
So so we started off with the good and we ended with the
bad.
So obviously I don't expect there's going to be more questions through this. There's summary. Revenue, I think we should do, to be in all honest, I would say that's more of the quarterly report, which would be next month, but I've added that on there. We are still ahead. There are some categories that we're behind. Hotel, motel tax, that's been trending for the last few years lower. Hopefully the Marriott flagged hotel will greatly reverse that. So, thank you.
Selectman Slavin?
I don't expect any answer today, but Derek, can you look into the Parker Mill Dam? We got notification, obviously, that we get every 3 years. The last completed was February 2nd, 2010. And I guess we have to have an inspection done by July 29th, 2013. Could you check with municipal maintenance to see what the status is with that?
Yes.
Since that particular dam is classified as high hazard potential.
The other piece to that is if we don't get the inspection done by the due date, they can start fining us, which we can ill afford.
Another cost shift to the town by the great state of Massachusetts. Commonwealth. It seems that every time they need to save money, they just shift it to the town. And 2.5 originally said that they would fund it anytime they cost shift or anytime they made a mandate that they would pay for it. And they just continue to exempt themselves from the provision of the law.
1974.
It's just craziness. I mean,
Next item, please.
Reports from any committees?
I took Mr. Holmes's place on the Citizens Advisory to the school committee search for the principal. The school committee met in one room, and this advisory group of 12 people met in another room Saturday at the middle school from 1 o'clock to 9:30 at night. I must say that the other 11 people in the room with me were outstanding citizens who care very much about the town of Wareham, not just the schools. They care very much about, why they moved here was because of the value of life, the quality of life that they saw here. So despite having to sit for 8.5 or 9 hours on a hard chair, I'm impressed with the people that were moving forward on behalf of the town. There were recommendations made by our subcommittee, and the school committee has since that time made public their 3 top choices for the search committee for the principal. You're welcome, Mr. Holmes.
I have nothing to report.
Last week was a quiet week as far as boards went. There were a lot of regional groups. One group meeting that I went to, which is basically transportation based out of Serped, which is our local regional for Southeast Mass. They list all their transportational projects, Transit Authority, which is GATRA for us, going all the way out to 2017. The only project for Wareham right now is there's one bridge, but the main project cost is $6 and $28, which has been scaled back to about a $9 million project, scheduled right now for 2016 to 2017. The other piece that I noticed was that they also work with the bike paths, because they work hand in hand with Mass DOT. And the bike path, the notification at the end after looking at the numbers going across and stuff was no status. So I asked some questions after the meeting was over. And what I would like to do is get the bike path committee and if the friends of the bike path would come in, if they feel like it, sit down and they can ask. I like to ask them how we can help them, because the bottom line is that we have money assigned through the CPA program to fund certain things for them, and I'm a little concerned because I don't know how much longer Mass DOT, federal government, state government is going to continue to fund bike paths. Obviously it's still high in their priorities, but I get a little nervous because every time we turn around, things disappear. And I think we need to reach out to these 2 particular groups and see what we can do to help them along, because I'm very concerned when I get a report that says no status, because that means they're not doing anything, nothing's happening as far as at the regional or state level. That's all I have. You?
I guess we're all set.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you all for
3-0-0.
coming.
Have a good evening.